Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Vesper, and this video is going to be an update to my Ryu and Chun-Li breakdown for Street Fighter V. Most of the new information that I'll be giving you guys is based off the Taipei match between Daigo and GamerB, as well as feedback from you guys, and I'd like to give a big shout out to everyone who's commented and giving me their own insight and helping me make these videos. Now before we begin, I'd like to mention that if you haven't already seen my previous Street Fighter V breakdowns, I'll provide a link for them above. I highly suggest you watch them since this video will be a direct continuation. I'll also provide a link to the Taipei match in case you haven't seen that either. Okay, so back on my mechanics breakdown, we discussed the game engine, the HUD, and things like that, but one thing I missed that you guys pointed out for me is the fact that you're able to now counter hit during the startup frames of your throw. Now in case you guys didn't know, in Street Fighter 4 you're not able to counter hit someone during the startup animation of their throw. In fact, that was the whole purpose of a stand-up throw tech, was so you don't get counter hit and don't fall for specific frame traps. I actually got a couple clips of this. This was during the Mike and Peter match, and you can clearly see a throw attempt occurring and of course getting stuffed and then getting counter hit. With the reduced amount of throw range and then now this, it doesn't look like there's much love for throws in Street Fighter V so far. Now moving on to Ryu and Chun-Li specifically, I got more stuff to talk about for Chun-Li, so let's begin with Ryu. So now that we know that there are currently no close proximity normals in Street Fighter V, we can look back at some of the normals we went over for Ryu. His close light punch is now just a light punch, and his close medium punch is also just a medium punch. And we can assume that his neutral jumping attacks are just jumping attacks in general. With that being said, it seems that normal attacks in Street Fighter V have more specific uses now. Ryu's light punch and medium punch barely have any range at all, but they seem faster than most of his attacks. But if you wanted a quick, standing, long-range poke with Ryu, you'd probably want to use medium kick for example. Now we saw in the Taipei match, Daigo landed a counter hit with his standing hard kick. And it was that huge counter hit that causes the opponent to spin around and stagger for a long period of time. And we also saw GamerB land that huge counter hit from a jumping hard kick. We also know that Chun-Li's crouching hard kick also does that huge counter hit. So that pretty much confirms now that all hard versions of attacks, normal attacks, whether they're crouching, standing, or jumping, have the potential to do that massive counter hit bonus, regardless if you're using Ryu or Chun-Li. So now that we know that this is a system-wide mechanic, we know that counter hits are going to be way more punishing now, and people are going to be encouraged to figure out ways to land more counter hits than they did before. Okay, so now with the added information of no close proximity attacks, and the fact that we know that all hard normals can cause that massive counter hit, let's take a look back at Ryu's 3 mystery normals that we went over before. Okay, so let's start with the picture on the bottom left, the close medium punch. We know that this is just a medium punch now because we've seen Daigo use this move far away. We also know that there's no possibility that this is a hard attack because we actually see Mike land a counter hit with this attack against Peter. So we know that hard attacks cause that massive counter hit bonus, and this move doesn't do that. So it's definitely a medium punch. Now for the standing hard punch on the top left and the bottom right, we know that it's just a standing hard punch. It does that extra counter hit bonus, and the reason I showed that close hitting part, it just means that when you hit the opponent really close with this, there's just an extra amount of animation because we know there's more realistic animations in Street Fighter V when Ryu's fist makes contact with Chun-Li. Which leaves us to the picture in the top right. We now know that this is actually a new command normal for Ryu. And since Mike was walking backwards as he did this attack, we can assume that it's a back hard punch, and he did this by accident. We actually have another clip of this attack being used, and it actually hits the opponent this time. It was in the new trailer and I completely missed it before. We see Ryu do a jumping hard kick into the command normal, and then he cancels that into an EX hurricane kick. The thing is that this command normal looks so similar to a medium punch when done at close range. The way we can tell the difference is that Ryu's other hand, the hand not punching Chun-Li, is a little bit lower. It's at his neck level. We also don't know if this move does 2 hits like his crouching hard punch for example, because he cancels right into his hurricane kick right after it hits. Since we know that you can't cancel from a standing hard punch, we can assume that this is used as a combo filler because it's a hard version of an attack and we know it can cancel from it. Okay, let's take a step back for a second. Now first we thought they were dumbing down all the normals in Street Fighter V. They're giving us only 3 types of normals, standing, crouching, and jumping. But all of a sudden Ryu gets these new command normals, this back hard punch that looks very similar to his close hard punch in other games. Why would they take away close normals, but then give us all these added command normals? What I think is going on is that Street Fighter V is taking the V-ism system from Street Fighter Alpha 3, where that all the close range attacks in Street Fighter are now command normals. So basically they're giving us complete control for every normal attack. I know some of you guys don't like the 3 normal attack system because you guys want the option to be able to do meaties, for example, when the opponent is waking up. But when you think about it, close proximity attacks are kind of unreliable sometimes because of the range that you have to be in to use them. For example, let's say that I'm a Honda player in Street Fighter 4 and I like to use my standing hard punch as an anti-air, but it has to be a close standing hard punch because Honda does his palm smash upwards at a diagonal angle. Sometimes I'll just get a standing hard punch accidentally because the opponent jumped at a strange angle, or maybe I pressed the button a little too early. All these really unreliable circumstances. Or maybe if I'm using Yang, I don't want to use his close standing medium kick as an anti-air, and the opponent, like I said, is just at a really strange angle where I just get the normal medium kick. We've seen it a few times before, and you'll just end up getting a trade, or worse yet, you'll get hard punished. One last quick example is if I'm using a Kuma and I want to do a hard punish on the opponent, and I go crouching medium punch and combo that into a close hard punch. Sometimes like maybe the hitbox would be just a little off or I misjudge my range and I'll do a far standing hard punch instead and dropping my combo. My point to all this is if in Street Fighter V, if all of our close proximity attacks now become command normals, like in Vism in Street Fighter Alpha 3, it gives us all a lot more control over our characters. It allows us to do exactly what we want to do, and I think this is a good middle ground for both new players and veteran players. Let me know what you guys think of this system so far. I think this will be really interesting if this is the case with Street Fighter V. Now that we have a better understanding on what normal attacks Ryu is doing, let's go back to that old trailer where Ryu does that gigantic combo into the Denjin. Okay, so we see him start off with a jumping hard punch, into a standing medium punch, into a standing hard punch, and the standing hard punch is the close animation of it, into a crouching medium kick, and then into Denjin. So jumping fierce, strong, fierce, crouching forward, cancel into Denjin. At this time everybody thinks that this is a link, but we don't know for sure if it's a V-trigger only combo and you're just getting added hit stun on every normal attack. Okay, so let's talk about some of that Taipei match specific stuff with Ryu, and we learned that his overhead punch is in fact back, his forward medium punch command normal. Nothing much to talk about here and no surprise, it looks pretty much the same. One quick thing I want to mention too is that we see Daigo attempt to activate his V-trigger and then he gets hit before the screen freeze, before the activation, and he does not gain an extra hit from his fireball. So like we talked about before, just activating your V-trigger raw is really unsafe because it really opened up for a lot of attacks and even ultras. And I think when the game first comes out, a lot of people are going to be doing that, and then not too many people are going to punish it, but then pretty soon people are going to be looking for it, and then, you know, we have to be looking for opportunities to do them in the future. The last thing I want to talk about for Ryu is his ultra. During the Taipei match, we see Daigo use his ultra on Gamer B, and Gamer B blocks it, and it brings him to pretty much 0 health. So this confirms that ultras fall in the same category as special attacks, in which that you can't just chip your opponent to death, you actually have to hit them. What I'm really curious about though is that when Gamer B gets hit by the last fireball, even though he had absolutely 0 health, his revenge gauge started filling. And I'm wondering, if you have absolute 0 HP, and then you block an attack, do you still gain revenge meter from that? I guess we'll find out in the future. Finally, on the subject of Ryu's ultra, we see Daigo land his ultra on Gamer B during the Taipei match. Now the ultra goes through Chun-Li's fireball and then it hits Gamer B for a total of 5 hits. Since we know that Chun-Li's fireball ate one of the hits of the ultra because of the armor, it means that during that time his ultra does 6 hits total. We also know Daigo wasn't successful on activating his V-trigger prior to doing that ultra. Now if we go all the way back to the Peter and Mike match, when Mike lands his ultra on Peter in the very first round, he actually did activate V-trigger before doing that ultra, and it did a total of 7 hits. He did it raw, and he didn't combo into it. So this finally confirms now that when Ryu activates his V-trigger, for every time it adds a hit on his normal fireball, his EX fireball, and his ultra as well gains an extra hit for every time he activates. And once again, he maintains this buff for the rest of the entire match, not just the round. So activating V-trigger with Ryu as many times as possible sounds really powerful. Okay guys, that does it for the update on Ryu. Let's move on to Chun-Li now. Okay, so just like we did with Ryu, let's go back on some of Chun-Li's normals we went over before. Let's start off with Chun-Li's jumping hard punch. Now in my previous video I said it was a new type of animation, but you guys pointed out to me that it's actually Chun-Li's neutral jumping hard punch from Street Fighter 4. Honestly, I don't know how I didn't see this, but with that being said, that means that you can't control if your jumping hard punch does 1 or 2 hits. It's automatic 2 hits. So in the case when we saw Peter just do 1 hit with it, it just means that he hit it really late and then the second hit didn't have enough time to come out before he hit the ground. Another thing that you guys have pointed out is that it seems that Chun-Li's standing hard punch and her standing medium punch I might have gone backwards. The big reason is the fact that her standing medium punch does a ton of damage, but her standing hard punch does almost no damage. It's really weak. And this is the same for the amount of gray damage that she does when the opponent blocks these attacks as well. If only we had footage of Chun-Li landing a counter hit with both moves, we'd be able to solve this right away. There is another small reason which I'm going to point out in a bit here, but for now I think her standing multi-hitting attack is her standing hard punch, and her quick attack that looks like a standing hard punch in her previous games like in Third Strike is in fact now her standing medium punch. Once again, it looks like Capcom is trying really hard to make every normal attack have its own use, and to have Chun-Li's strongest attack be also one of her quickest and most long-range attacks would be kind of redundant. Also, one little tidbit that you guys pointed out for me is that her standing hard punch forces stand on hit, which actually makes a lot of sense. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about some new stuff. Now during the Taipei match, we actually see GamerB do the full animation of Chun-Li's palm smash attack now. He throws it out several times when Daigo is trying to zone him with fireballs, so it blatantly looks like this move can neutralize fireball attacks. So this tells us several things. First off, this move is taken directly from Omega Chun-Li in Ultra Street Fighter 4. The move is called Hake and it's done by pressing back and hard punch, and it also nullifies projectiles. The second thing that this tells us is that this move is a command normal, not a special attack. Also, GamerB gains no EX meter when he does this move raw. And since we know that this is not a special attack, it completely debunks my theory in my previous video where I thought this was a charge attack that was taken from the Alpha series from Chun-Li. So with that being said, it seems that Chun-Li has another great way of dealing with projectiles, including her crouching medium punch. The only question that remains is, can this move nullify multi-hitting projectiles, and when you do nullify projectile, do you gain EX meter from it? Also, this move has quite a bit of startup as we've seen GamerB have some trouble with the timing. Moving on, we get to see another new normal attack from Chun-Li. Now I have no idea what this attack is, but the animation definitely looks familiar. It's that final kick that she does at the end of her traditional multi-hitting kick supers that she has in most of her previous games. Since GamerB whiffed this attack, we don't actually know if it launches the opponent like it looks like it does. So my theory is that this is actually a standing hard kick. Now I know before my previous Chun-Li breakdown I already showed her standing hard kick. However, every time that she did her standing hard kick, every time Peter did it, he moved forward. Leading me to believe now that that is actually her command normal attack, which is forward hard kick, which is in line with her Third Strike move list. To back up this theory, let's all ask the question, what is this move intended for? If you say it's intended to be used as an anti-air, well that wouldn't really make sense because she already has her flip kick command normal. Like I said before, it seems like Capcom is trying to give every normal attack its own application. If we look at all the information that we gathered, we know that Chun-Li's standing hard punch is that multi-hitting attack, so if you got a counter hit with it, you wouldn't really get that huge counter hit bonus. If her command normal is forward hard kick, which always knocks the opponent down, getting a counter hit also would not benefit that huge counter hit bonus. Which means that she has no option for a standing hard attack to do the huge counter hit bonus, which leads me to believe that this is actually a standing hard kick, and that's why it has such a wonky looking hitbox and it looks really hard to land. Let me know what you guys think this attack is, but right now I'm pretty certain that this is a standing hard kick and it's Chun-Li's only standing option to land that huge counter hit bonus. Next up, we have another new attack that we see GamerB do during the Taipei match. We briefly see him do a jumping attack just before he hits the ground. Now I know what you're thinking, this is Chun-Li's neutral jumping hard kick from Street Fighter 4. However, we already know what Chun-Li's jumping hard kick looks like, and the fact that we know that there are no neutral jumping attacks as of yet in Street Fighter 5. It's actually pretty funny because we see GamerB do the neutral jumping hard kick in the exact same match, and we know this is a hard kick because of the counter hit bonus. We've also already seen Chun-Li's jumping medium kick, which leads to two possibilities. One, this is a jumping light kick. Seems pretty good for a jumping light kick. And the second possibility is that it's in fact another command normal which could be done in the air with Chun-Li. I wouldn't be surprised. Once again guys, let me know what you think about this. Moving on, we see GamerB do Chun-Li's wall jump, so now we know Chun-Li's wall jump is back, which is jumping in the opposite direction when you reach the edge of the screen. No surprise here. Next up, during the Taipei match, we see more versions of Chun-Li's fireball. We see that this time the fireball doesn't exactly go full screen, and it starts up a lot faster. I'm going to assume that GamerB is using the hard punch version of her Kikoken. So we know now for Chun-Li's fireball, the higher strength that you use, the less it travels, the faster it travels, and the stronger it is, most likely. This is very familiar for other fighting games with Chun-Li in it, so it's nothing new. One thing I should mention though is, in this match there is still no hard evidence of Chun-Li's fireball not being a charge attack. GamerB is either crouching or moving backwards before he does Chun-Li's fireball, which implies that it most likely is still a charge in Street Fighter V. We also get to finally see Chun-Li's EX version of her Kikoken, and it looks very similar to Street Fighter IV and other titles with Chun-Li throwing a fireball. It still does 2 hits, but it doesn't move as fast as I thought it would. It moves kind of slow, and it doesn't knock the opponent down. Speaking of EX moves, we finally get to see the EX version of Chun-Li's new special air attack. It obviously does a lot more damage and it hits more times. It hits 5 hits instead of 3, and it still looks like you can juggle from it, because it causes that ground bounce effect, and we also see GamerB combo into it after his ultra. We still have no idea what the V-trigger version of this move looks like yet. That about does it for all the special moves we've seen with Chun-Li so far. However, there is a moment in the match where GamerB is doing this short little chain combo, and he combos into lightning legs, and if you look at GamerB's hands when he's actually playing, you can see him hammering down buttons on the joystick, implying that lightning legs is still a rapid button press special move. So it looks like I will be re-releasing my piano tutorial once again in the future. Okay, let's talk about Chun-Li's Ultra now. We got some updates for this. First off, damn, this thing looks fast, man. We see Daigo throw a fireball at GamerB, and GamerB blocks it, and it looks like he still has enough time to punish Daigo even on block. If you go through this clip frame by frame, you actually see Ryu's hand still extended, meaning he did not go back to neutral. So, damn, this thing looks fast, like third strike fast. Another thing is that the Ultra itself doesn't seem to be that strong. GamerB lands it and his revenge gauge is about, I'd say 55-60% full. And you can see the exact amount of damage it does by just looking at the red portion of the health. That being said though, the fact that you can jump cancel it and still continue your combo compensates for that. Speaking of which, we notice that GamerB is able to jump cancel from his Ultra while he was not in V-trigger mode, meaning that it doesn't matter which version of her Ultra you do, you can jump cancel both. With that being said, I'm kind of suspicious now. It almost seems like only Ryu has 2 different types of Ultras at this time. Ryu is kind of a special case because we know that when Ryu activates his V-trigger, his fireball attacks dynamically change, and therefore his Ultra changes into the Denjin from the Shinku, and Chun-Li doesn't really have something like that. So maybe it's just Ryu who has 2 Ultras and every character only has 1 Ultra at this moment. But of course we need more footage to figure that out. While we're on the subject of V-trigger, I'd also like to point out that GamerB has V-trigger activated as he wins the round, and we see the next round he starts without it, meaning that V-trigger does not persist between rounds. We also get to see GamerB use a taunt with Chun-Li. It's kind of funny, we haven't seen a taunt until now. They both had full EX meter, so I wanted to see if maybe you'd give the opponent some EX meter, something like that. Something like, you know, when they have K-Groove in CVS2, and you can boost their meter before you lose a round or something like that. I'm kind of hoping that in this game there's some use for taunt, like in Third Strike for example. I always thought it was really cool to throw in a taunt and have a use for it, you know. It makes the match exciting for both the players and the audience just to find ways to squeeze those in because you're vulnerable for, you know, a short amount of time. We're going to assume that to perform a taunt, it's hard punch and hard kick at the same time. To do a throw, it's light punch and light kick at the same time, which means that V-trigger is most likely activated by doing the mediums, medium punch and medium kick at the same time. Okay, so let's backtrack a little here. Now we know that since we've seen GamerB do that palm smash move, we know that my theory in my previous Chun-Li breakdown was debunked. I'm talking about that mystery move that Chun-Li does in the trailer where she does that crazy palm smash. So the question is now, what the hell is this move? The next theory I would have said was, it's probably the EX version of her fireball, but we've already seen that in the Taipei match. So now it's a complete mystery, but we know that the move works exactly the same way as her fireball attack in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The one I'm talking about is the one where when Chun-Li performs her Kikoken and then she presses hard punch right after, it goes into this kind of palm smashy, close range, stunning fireball attack. It's kind of suspicious though that we haven't seen a normal version of this attack, we only see the EX version. But honestly guys, we're just going to need more information on this. There is one thing I should mention to you guys though. The way EX moves seem to work in Street Fighter V is that they have a streak particle effect that surrounds the character as they're doing their move. For Ryu, it's that black streak that surrounds his body, and for Chun-Li, it's like a waterish key kind of streak. And these particles, they follow their hands and their legs as they're doing their abilities. But when Chun-Li activates her V trigger and then she does all of her enhanced special attacks, so not the EX versions, just the ones where it changes her moves, like her double fireball, her different lightning legs, that has a water splat. It's not a streak, it's like a splat mark on the screen. Now I think that's important to know going forward as we look at different characters in Street Fighter V as they're introduced, to tell the difference between what is something that is changed by the V trigger and what is actually an EX special attack. Now if we go all the way back to one of the old trailers with Chun-Li and Ryu, we see Chun-Li do her spinning bird kick while in V trigger. We know she's in V trigger because her hands are glowing blue. Now when she does the spinning bird kick after the 5 hits, it ends with this Hazenshu looking attack, and I assume that this was just the V trigger version of the spinning bird kick. The thing is though, at the end of the move we see that water streak effect happen as she kicks downwards, implying that it's an EX version of an attack. And we already know that Chun-Li is able to cancel her special moves into another special move from the same trailer. So what I think is we're seeing 2 different attacks. If she was doing 2 different special moves in that trailer, then the second part would be her Senenshu from Street Fighter EX series. But once again, we haven't seen the normal version of that attack either, so it's really hard to, theorize on this when we don't have enough information. That would imply that Chun-Li has a ton of special moves, man, that we haven't seen yet. If that's the case though, where Chun-Li can only cancel her special attack into an EX special move, then that would be more intuitive, because that means that you can only do it up to 3 times, meaning you can't just do an infinite, so that would make a lot more sense if that's the case. Of course, you would only be able to do this while you have your V trigger activated, and that would mean you have to gain a lot of bar to do a long combo. And I guess that would explain why it's a little harder for Chun-Li to get her V trigger deactivated, because she has to get knocked down. So let me know what you guys think about this until we get some more footage here. Okay guys, the last thing I want to talk about for this video is the whole fireball spam situation, where GamerB activates V trigger with Chun-Li and just starts spamming fireballs Soul Fist style from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The first thing is, I think it's kind of strange that you're allowed to do more than 1 projectile attack at a time on the screen. This reminds me of the old school vanilla Street Fighter 4 days, where Ryu players would just chuck fireballs at you, and if you jumped over it, you get hit by a super fireball. So I think it's kind of strange that, Capcom is going back on this now, and now you're allowed to throw more than 1 fireball at a time on the screen. Of course, Chun-Li throws 2 fireballs at once, but what I mean is she's able to throw 2 fireballs and then another 2 fireballs before the other ones disappear. Now, when a lot of people saw this, the first thing that went through their heads is, wow, this is broken. Chun-Li is able to just, zone you out with fireballs all day. This is crazy. But I want you guys to keep in mind that Daigo didn't even activate V-Trigger once, and Ryu only needs 2 bars to activate V-Trigger, whereas Chun-Li needs 3. And if Daigo activated it once, his fireballs would have done 2 hits, and right there he could have stopped it. I was also surprised that Daigo didn't attempt doing a Hurricane Kick, because I was curious to see if a Hurricane Kick would be able to pass over them. Another thing too is that Chun-Li is really open when she does these fireballs, man. Like, when she throws the first fireball, she has to do the second one. So if you jump over this and you hit her on the head, it's going to be a nasty counter hit. Also, if you're playing against a Chun-Li player and he just walks backwards with full meter, it's pretty obvious he's going to activate V-Trigger. And as we know, you're really open during the activation. You could just throw out an Ultra, for example, and just knock her right out of it. One thing to keep in mind though is Chun-Li doesn't gain meter for both fireballs as she throws them out. But she does gain meter for each fireball when both are blocked, and she does gain meter for both fireballs when they get hit as well. She barely gains any meter though when you block the fireballs, and of course you guys know you cannot chip the opponent out either. Anyways, the whole situation was really funny, and I can't wait to see the gimmicks that people come up with. This whole V trigger system is gonna be hilarious. Okay guys, that about does it for my Ryu and Chun-Li update. Thanks so much guys for watching, I really appreciate it. And thanks so much guys for having the patience to wait for me as I work on these videos. My next breakdown video will be the Charlie Nash trailer, and I'll try my best to get out as soon as possible. In the meantime though, if you guys haven't already seen, I've done a complete breakdown on Charlie in all of his previous fighting games. This includes his special moves, combos, and his mechanics. Till next time guys, peace.